Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Life Paranormal Research Podcast. I'm your host, Russell Reynolds. Sorry for the hiatus last week. We had some terrible storms out here in Missouri, and our Wi-Fi was acting up. Plus, we were getting ready for a Paracon. So we're back this week, and I got an awesome show tonight with an awesome guest. My guest tonight, you've probably seen him on the show, The Haunted Hospitals. He's also an author. He will be at the Warrens Paracon in September in Gettysburg. Please welcome my guest at this time, Ernie Atwell. Hey,
What's up, Russell? How
show.
you doing, man?
Good. Glad to have you on.
Man, first, before we get started, I can't thank you enough. I'm honored. I know it took some going back and forth to get me on here because of some scheduling and then some technical issues, and so tonight's going to be awesome because it must have lined up that way, man. This is just the right time, you know.
Yeah. So tell my audience a little bit about yourselves that aren't familiar with you and your work.
For those that don't know me, my name is Ernie, and I am co-founder of Paranormal Inc. and co-host of Step Into the Paranormal podcast on WLFE DB Radio. Currently released my second paranormal book, and like Russ said, you may have seen me on season 3 of Haunted Hospitals on Travel Channel and Discovery Plus.
Awesome. So what got you started into the paranormal?
Real quick, man, before I start rambling, I gotta wish a very happy birthday to my good friend and brother Scott Porter. So happy birthday, and congratulations to you and Stephanie on your upcoming new arrival. And I'll see you guys in July. What got me started, Russ? I got into the paranormal based on my religion. I was born, raised, and still am practicing Roman Catholic. And I grew up with my grandparents who were strict Catholics. So in doing so, I went to Catholic elementary school, and I always had this, like most of us that's in this field, I always had this obsession with, back in my day, it was spirits and angels, and, paranormal wasn't as, mainstream as it was. And being one of those kids that loved everything Halloween, 365, I had this fascination with visitation and angels and things along those lines. And in my own demented mind, so to speak, it kind of coincided to something spooky for me. Now I'm talking early 70s. I was, I guess, around 9 years old. I became like a real avid reader. And anything I could get my hands on that had to do with visitation and prophetic visions and, angels and loved ones coming to see you, I just read everything that I could. And that continued until age 11, when I had my first paranormal experience. And I was fortunate enough to witness a full-bodied apparition that at first I thought was a live human. You know what I mean? And it turns out to be a spirit. Now, I didn't go. I mean, I continued, my research into religion and spirits, and for my whole childhood. Now, I didn't go on my first investigation until 1999, and then it was just like a periodical thing that I would do until 2004, when one of my best friends and I were in Gettysburg, and we had an encounter one evening before we left to come home. And that just kind of kicked it into full gear for me. And it's been nonstop, basically for the last 20 years.
Nice. On haunted hospitals, were you investigating the hospitals on the show, or
Can you say that one more time?
when you were on haunted hospitals, were you guys investigating the hospitals for hauntings?
No. How it all transpired, for those that don't know me, I'm a 27-year veteran cop, and I still am. And I had an incident that happened one night while at work, and I'll get into it later. But one of the main topics of my second book that was just released last month is based on paranormal experiences paranormal experiences while working on duty. But I had an incident occur, and I kept it to myself for quite a while until I started letting people that I work with in the paranormal field know about it. And one day, I'm sure James Anito. James Anito contacted me, and he was like, "Hey, man, you got to call this lady. She's real interested in you." And I was like, "Okay." So I called this lady, and she was from the show Paranormal 911, and they got wind of the story. So they wanted to fly me up to Canada and film an episode of Paranormal 911. Now, I told them, set it all up, send me the itinerary, and I'll be on my way. Lo and behold, when I got the dates and the times, I had 3 events scheduled that week that I was hosting, and I couldn't back out of them, man. I didn't feel right. I felt that would have been selfish, people buying tickets, looking forward to investigating with my paranormal partner Dave and I, and then me canceling out, 3 days before. So I contacted them, and I just explained and told them, if you're ever interested, call me. About a year after that, my friend Dan Class, he contacted me and was like, "Hey, do the same thing. Call this lady. She's interested in your story." So I called her, and it's the same production company, but one end does haunted hospitals and the other does paranormal 911. So they were like, "Hey, we're going to film your story. You can either come to California or come to New York." So being like 3-4 hours from New York City, I was like, "All right, I'll come to New York." So I went through some interviews and stuff like that, and they said the lady told me, I'll contact you within a day and set everything up. So this was in August, a few years back, and I was thinking like first of the year, like I thought it was going to be some period of time in between. Well, when I received my phone call, they were like, "You need to be in New York in 2 days." So I just jumped in the car and away I went. And it was actually my first time in New York City. But back to the main question, the episode I was on was basically a reenactment of something that occurred while I was working in 2014.
Mhm. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do you go out and do, like, residential places too when you investigate, or is it just public
Yeah, I
events?
mean, Dave and I, we started Paranormal Inc. in 2017. And the way that came to be was I was part of Paranormal Research of Maryland for like 7 years. And I kind of wanted to go off in a different direction. So I had a discussion with Dave, who's my best friend, that I was going to leave the team and I was going to go on my own. Dave decided to come with me and handle all the technical stuff. So at that point, we resigned from the team, started a 2-man project, and our main purpose, of course, was still to investigate residential, commercial, and land-based hauntings for people. And also, we wanted to start getting more into the lectures and the seminars. And we basically hit the ground running and it snowballed from there.
Nice. Yeah, the Paracon scene seems to get pretty busy for us investigators that do it.
It does. It's so much, and with me still having a full-time job, you know, um, I try to, what I do is I try every year, January, I try to put all my leave in for the entire year. I got this month, I got this, and next month I got that, and
Right.
get it all set, at one time. And then, of course, like the Warren's Paracon, I knew that was coming, but I didn't know when. I was waiting to hear from them. So that you have some that pop up sporadically, we host a lot all over the country. We host a lot of public investigations. So the fortunate thing with my job is I'm off every other weekend. And
Mm.
that's kind of unheard of for being a cop, but I'm off every other weekend. And normally if something falls on a weekend that I work, I don't have no trouble, taking off. So it kind of works out.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I also work a full time job myself too, and do the Paracons and
Yeah.
paranormal investigation people's houses, and
Work has a way of interfering sometimes.
it sure does. But my job's pretty. I work for a school, so my job's pretty well laid back, like kind of how yours is. If I need off, hey,
Yeah.
we'll put it.
Yeah. But the good thing is, man, I can retire whenever I want. I'm, you know what I mean? I got the years in, so, I'm just, hanging on. I think as long as my body and my mind can continue the way it is, I think hopefully I have a couple good more years in me, so, but, and then birthdays, man, they keep creeping up on you. You know what I mean? Once you hit a certain age, it's like my birthday's this month again. And I'm like, man, it just felt like 3 months ago, it's like, slow down a little bit.
Yep. That's like mine's in October because I'm close to Halloween, so
What date is it? What date?
28th.
Wow, because my paranormal partner Dave, his birthday is the day before Halloween.
Oh wow.
So that's cool. Hey man, maybe one of these years we can get together and get like a Halloween birthday
Yeah,
collaboration going on.
definitely. Yeah, we're always up for that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we haven't been to Missouri yet, so maybe we can work on something out your way.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll talk
There's
to
a
Dave
lot
and
of
we can. What's that?
we have a lot of history out here between Mormon massacre, Civil Wars,
Wow.
and slavery.
Right. Wow.
Tracy Rizzo said her birthday is Halloween.
Oh shoot. Well, who is that? Tracy?
Tracy, Tracy Rizzo, yep.
Well, hey, when we hook up that collaboration event, come on out, Tracy, and hang with us.
And then Michael Sublet said, "You're a cop. I'm a 20-year veteran paramedic."
Oh wow. God bless them, man. Them guys. We man, I my hat's off to the paramedics and the firefighters. We work hand in hand with them, you know what I mean? And those guys, they're busier than the police.
Oh yeah,
You know,
they're
when I started my career, I worked in Baltimore City, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with Baltimore City. And I tell you what, man, I always knew. I always tell everybody, when you get to the city limits because you're going to see an ambulance going by, and it's just a firefight. People don't realize what the firefighters and the first responders, along with all them, what they deal with on a day to day basis, man.
Oh yeah,
You gotta have nerves of steel.
yeah. I've got a few buddies that are paramedics. My one
Yeah.
buddy's a paramedic and firefighter,
Mm,
so he's gone weeks at a time
yeah.
home. So
Right. Yeah. God bless them, man. Because that's you see things. What do I say? Your eyes see. Your eyes like take a picture, and your mind just never forgets it. I mean, I started my career in '97, and there's just certain things that don't go away, and they just stay there. And when you think of them or something reminds you of it, it was like yesterday. You know what I mean?
yeah, Michael says, yeah, I got lower back injuries, a wicked case of
Mm,
PTS, and an ugly T-shirt out of it, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it. You know, I know we're getting off topic, but I'm a field trainer at work. So when people come out of the academy, you know, I might get selected to train them on the street till they're ready. And, I always tell them, and I'm sure this is the same for the fire department. I can teach you proper safety techniques and defense tactics and how to write a report and the proper way to position your car if you make a traffic stop. Those
Mhm.
things can be taught. But in certain careers, not just mine, but in certain careers, there are certain things that you have to have that you can't be taught. They have to come natural,
Right.
and I like to use the term, it's a Baltimore term, but we always say natural police. If somebody says, "Hey, so and so, he did 30 years, whatever," and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, he's a good guy, man. He's natural police." And we know what that means, and I'm sure the fire side of this conversation they know as well. And I'm,
Mhm.
I'm sure I mean, that goes with anything, man. A doctor, a teacher, any sort of educator, you know.
Right.
So
I know we were talking before the show about you have a doll that came out of Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
yes, Dave and we own. I don't like to use the word own. She lives with. We have Sandra the Haunted Doll, and we got Sandra, I guess, about 2 years ago. And recently in December, I was doing an event at the 1912 Hoover House in right outside Gettysburg in Waynesboro, and a friend of mine contacted me who happened to be in town. And long story short, I acquired another haunted doll that evening. Her name is Agatha. She's from the year 1908, so she's pretty old. I have both of them downstairs on display, and they'll be at all the events that Dave and I are at. All the Paracons coming up. We even have Sandra the Haunted Doll merchandise because it's funny, man. We the past 2 years at the Gettysburg Bash, we have our table set up with my books and our merchandise and all that stuff, and we had like a separate line for people just wanting to see the doll. I mean, people love that stuff. I mean, so do I, but it's just
Right.
incredible, man, the amount of respect and attention and love that these dolls, because there's quite a few people have some legitimate haunted dolls. You know what I mean? And we were talking about that too. But yeah, so it's good, man. The dolls that we have, Agatha and Sandra, they're very appreciated, very respected, very loved, and we try to give them the attention and the stardom that they deserve, that they need. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's all good. It's all good.
Was she a spirit from that died at Waverly from tuberculosis,
Well,
or?
the story is, and I had this backed up. I had two different mediums. I mean, world renowned mediums do readings on Sandra without them knowing anything.
Mhm.
And the story is that in 1948, there was a man, it was just him and his daughter, who was between the age of like 8 and 10 or 11.
Right.
And they were the only two remaining in the family. Well, the man had respiratory issues, so he was admitted to Waverly Hills. The dad, he eventually passed away. Now, with no other family, um, the child, Lucy, she became a ward of the state and took up residency at Waverly Hills. So, as a little bit of time went on, Lucy contracted tuberculosis and became very ill. Okay. Now, keep in mind, like I said, this was in 48. So, the staff, they got her this porcelain doll, Sandra, beautiful doll. And Lucy named the doll Sandra. Well, when Lucy eventually succumbed to her injury or her illness and passed away, they put up like a little memorial for
Mm.
Lucy, and they had Sandra there. And according to the staff at the time, the activity just picked up, was through the roof. So as the years went by, they wanted the doll out of the sanatorium. So the doll started getting passed around from like employee to employee to employee. Now, a few years ago, uh, I don't, somebody that follows us or whatever, I don't know him personally. Somebody from Washington State wound up with Sandra and they contacted Dave and they said, we need some advice on how to properly dispose of this doll. It's been giving us issues in the house. The kids are scared of it. Doll's been passed around. It's been the same thing the whole time. So we started telling them what to do. And then the lady just asked Dave, she's like, hey man, you just want the doll? We'll send it to you. So we're like, heck yeah, man, here's the address. Now, if you go on our website, paranormalinc.net, all our links are there. You can go on our YouTube channel. And basically what we did was when we got Sandra, we had our cameraman, John McGinnis, film like a documentary style video, which 22 minutes long of us opening and housing Sandra in a case. Now, we were filming just for our own archives, nothing for the public.
Right.
But as soon as I started to open this box, like it went crazy. Okay. And it got to the point where we were talking about it on an episode of our podcast. And we was like, you know what? It'll be better just to run the 22-minute video. So
Mhm.
you can go on our YouTube channel and watch the video. It's very, very interesting. And if you do watch it, stick around to the very, very end because I do a last minute follow up once the doll is away and we go over the equipment that was there and you can see that everything just shut down. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I mean, I investigated Waverly a couple years ago,
Wow. Now
and
I was supposed to I can't remember what happened, but last March, myself, Rick Hayes, Brian Cano, there was a big event scheduled there.
mhm.
And we were going to take, I don't mean to leave her there, but we were in the event originally and we were taking Sandra back and we were going to have her there during this event and we were going to lead an investigation. But something came up with Dave and we had to pull the plug last minute. But I can't remember. But before I forget, Russ, I had Rick Hayes and I had my friend Dr. Rebecca. They both did readings on Sandra with
Mhm.
no information. And they came up with the same thing that there's a little girl with the doll and just kind of elaborating on that a little bit. And we weren't sure of the little girl's name until Dr. Rebecca told us she's picking up Lucy.
Right.
Well, we had Sandra at we had her at a Paracon, and some psychic medium come up and was doing their thing around the doll or whatever, and told us Lucy is with her. So we was like, wow. I mean, two people that don't know each other, and they both come up with a name of Lucy that in my
Right.
opinion, you don't hear much today, anymore.
And as a matter of fact, if I remember right, when we were on tour at Waverly for the private investigation, our tour guide did mention the name Lucy.
Oh, really? Wow.
That,
See, yeah, man. Like I said, this is the first time other than through texting that you and I have ever spoken.
yep.
For your viewers this evening, 2 minutes before we went live, I told you about Sandra, so you didn't even know.
Nope.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to pass that. I'm gonna have to pass that information on. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, I do remember the name Lucy, and I think I'll have to go back through my recordings and see if I do have an EVP with the name
Wow.
Lucy too.
Yeah. Now, when you watched our documentary of uncasing Sandra, when our cameraman John, when he went back, he didn't edit anything other than what he did was you'll hear EVPs during this filming that we didn't hear, and he just subtitles what it is.
Right.
So you'll see like we got a it was kind of you know it was our first encounter with having our own haunted doll. Now, we expected the worst. You know what I mean? Because we just didn't know. That's why we had cameras and recorders and equipment. But the funny thing is, and by no means am I a psychic, a mean, nothing, man. I have to have hard evidence, I don't
Right.
feel anything other than natural human instinct. You know what I mean? And it was something when I gloved up and Dave and I took this doll out of the box, it was like a feeling to come over like, there is nothing bad here. Because, a lot of the public have the misconception when we say haunted item, haunted doll, haunted, it's the devil himself. You know what I mean? And you can thank a lot of TV and media and all for that. It's entertainment. But when we took Sandra out, it didn't feel anything, nothing felt off. But here was the key, and you'll be able to hear this. We have a glass case sitting there, and as soon as I put Sandra in this case, you hear this little girl, her voice comes over that, of course, we didn't hear. But as soon as I set her in that case, you hear this little girl go, ah, like a sigh of relief.
Right.
And I was like, when I heard that, I was done. You know what I mean? Now, here's a funny story. A few years back, myself and Dave
Mhm.
and a good friend, Rob Murphy, and Miss Lori Johnson from Ghost of Shepherdstown, we were guests at it was called the Halloween Extravaganza. It was in West Virginia. Now, that was a long weekend for Dave and I. So we were doing the Paracon. We were supposed to lead an investigation that night at it was the Roundhouse Train Museum.
Right.
And we we were just out of steam. And so we said, look, man, we're going to pass the investigation over to Rob Murphy, our friend from Elite Paranormal. Let him handle the public investigation for us. Now, before I packed my table up, the people that ran the Roundhouse, good friends of ours, I went to Mike, who runs it, and I said, hey, look, I don't want to keep lugging Sandra back and forth from the hotel. Can I lock her in your office? So no one knew except the caretaker, Mike, that Sandra was in the closet in his office. Okay.
Mhm.
So Paracon's done for the day. Rob's out in the wherever, he's leading the investigation. Now, Mike's wife, real nice lady by the name Spring, just like the season, she's in the office and she's doing her paperwork and all this and that. She hears this noise. Well, she calls her husband Mike on the radio and says, hey, I think the refrigerator is about to go up. Can you come down here and check it out? making this terrible banging noise.
Mhm.
So when Mike gets to the office, there's no noise, no nothing. As he's getting ready to leave, he hears this bang. Well, Mike said to himself, "Oh no, this is coming from the closet." So he still didn't say nothing. So he called Rob, who was leading the group. This whole entire group comes to this office, and Mike never told Rob a thing. He just said, "Hey, man, we're getting this banging coming from the closet." Well, when Rob opens the closet, he sees Sandra. Now, being the guy Rob is, man, good dude, very smart, very
Mhm.
experienced investigator. He goes into the closet, shuts the door, and he says to Spring, he knocks like on the wall, "Is this the noise?" No. He rattled some mops and that were in a bucket. "Is this the noise?" No. He rattled Sandra's case. And she's like, "That's a noise. That's a noise." So when he opened the door, he was like, "Here it is right here." So when Dave and I came back to the Paracon the following morning, man, they couldn't wait to get to us to tell us that Sandra started reacting. So it was real cool, man. And the good thing is I wasn't there, Dave wasn't there, so they can't say, "Oh, they
Right.
planned something," you know?
Well, at least she's not like Annabelle.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I don't think my wife would like that. But I tell you, if you don't mind me for a few minutes talking about my other doll, Agatha, I have this theory, man, and people that read my books, they understand. I feel that when we're put into our physical body, our life is planned out, and we're just unaware of the mission we're about to start. Okay. And that kind of goes back to my religious beliefs. Now, Pam Berry from 1912 Hoover House, when she contacted me months ago and said, "Hey, can you come up in December, do a seminar, lead an investigation?" I said, "Sure." Um, she goes, "All right, here's 3 or 4 dates, pick one." I was like, "I don't know, man. Give me the 16th." Now, my wife, when I do like local book seminars or book signings, my wife will go with me. Or if it's a close Paracon, she'll come up, spend the day. She doesn't travel with me because I think she loves my dog more than me, and she doesn't like to put him in a kennel. So it's
Right.
easier to stuff Ernie away in a hotel room for a weekend, and she stays home with the dog. So she was adamant on coming to this investigation on December 16th. And I'm like, okay. So we go up to the investigation. About midway through, I get a phone call from my friend. If you're watching, Sherry, hi. She is a homicide detective. And she says, "Hey, are you still at the Hoover House?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we got a few hours left." She's like, "All right, hang tight. I'm on my way. I got something for you." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. You're driving all the way up from Maryland and I'll see you at work in a couple days?" She's like, "No, I'm 10 minutes away." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So Sherry shows up and I'm like, "What are you doing up?" Because, I mean, we're out of town. She's like, "Oh, I was at a Christmas party. And it just happened to be this 10 minutes away the same night you're at the Hoover House." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's cool." She said, "Here's what happened." She said, "We were having a secret Santa. Someone dropped off an anonymous gift. We don't know who dropped it off. We didn't see them. It was wrapped up. It was there. So this man, however they worked their secret Santa, this man chose this gift. Well, when he opened it up, it was with paperwork and it was saying that this doll is haunted. It has the spirit of a witch with it from 1908 and going on and on and on. This guy has a complete meltdown. He's like, "Get this thing to freak away from me. I want no part of this, whatever." So Sherry pulls him aside and says, "Hey, look, man, if you're serious, I got a guy 10 minutes away. He'd be more than happy to take this doll off your hands." And he's like, "Do whatever you want with it. Go outside and burn it. I don't even want to look at it." So he was that terrified. So anyway, she brings me the doll. Now we're at the Hoover House. She brings the doll in, take it out of the case. And my wife was on her way over to see it. And I knew what was coming next. And this is where it gets strange. When my wife come over, took one look at this doll, and I mean, Russ, she busted out crying hysterically. Okay.
Right.
And I knew why. I knew why. Her mom recently passed away.
Hmm.
This doll looked like someone took a picture of my mother-in-law and made this doll from her picture.
Oh, wow.
That's how much it resembled her. So of course, everyone, I mean, we had a mansion full of guests that were there to investigate with us. And, my wife just basically took her phone out with a picture of her mother and held it next to the doll and let people look. And I tell you, this is the first time this ever happened. All the years we've been doing this, the mood shifted so drastically, so quickly that we ended the event. Like people were like, I'm so emotionally done. Like we're done here. You know what I mean? And that's how the night ended. And my friend Stacy Lee, she was the psychic medium with us that night. And she did like a reading on the doll because we didn't read the paperwork. I didn't want to know anything about it yet. And that's a whole different story. But, Stacy told me, she's like, this doll was meant for you, because those people that know me know I don't believe in coincidence, and everything just lined up. I just chose a random date. It happened to be the same date and time that my friend was going to be in the next town over. It was the same night that my wife, for some reason, decided to go with me on a public investigation. So it was like the universe just came full circle, man, and brought Agatha to me.
Right. Deanna Pennington Simpson said, as a young girl, I used to go with my mom and grandma to visit my great aunt when Waverly was a nursing home. You could feel the energy.
Wow. Let me tell you about Deanna. I know Deanna. Deanna is one of the most genuine, sweet, nicest ladies you will ever meet. And I just got to see her 2 weeks ago at a book signing I did in Gettysburg. And for those of you, and I hate to put you on blast, Deanna, but I'm going to. If you remember the show that Jason and Steve did, Ghost Hunters, what was the, not international, but the one where
Taps?
where they went and teamed up with like a local team. You
Okay,
remember.
yeah. Yep.
They Deanna was on one of their episodes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Man, I tell you, man, these senior moments. Yeah, I can't remember, but you remember what I'm talking about.
Yep. I do know what you're talking about. And then Nancy said, you know what's cool? Seeing a seasoned investigator get really excited over the paranormal and things that happen out of the blue still. They still get excited. It's so cool to see that kind of enthusiasm.
You know, and it is because I tell you why, man. And Russ, you and everybody watching is going to know exactly what I mean. And I hope I'm kind of elaborating on what Nancy said. For those enthusiasts that watch all the TV shows, in 48 minutes, they have all this evidence.
Yep.
And, they don't realize how many hours and hours and trips back that those few pieces of evidence take to capture. Like we have a lot of people send us stuff like, hey, can you take a look at this? Can you analyze this? And, you know, it's a lot of people expect big things. But, Russ, if you and I are in a room and there is no one in this entire building but us, and you ask a question or I ask a question, and we get a simple, sounds like a little girl going, clearing her throat. To
Mhm.
us, man, that's like winning the lotto because
Yep.
we know what it takes to get that. You get what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I think by people's enthusiasm and reaction and energy, it shows just how deep their passion is. You get what I'm saying?
Yep. Nancy said you wait all night and you hear bread.
And you hear what?
Bread.
Bread?
Yeah, that's
I'm missing something.
so am I. But she is right. Right. We do wait all night to hear or
Yeah.
happen.
And the thing is, you know, doing this for quite a while, and those of your viewers that's been doing this for a while, you know that, like I said, that just the slightest piece of evidence, you almost know immediately if it's something legit or not. And it's like,
Right.
how can you not get excited? Like, I have this I have this piece of equipment, and the reason I use it, do you know, like, if you see on TV like an old fashioned diner, or
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, maybe a hotel, and the bell, you ding, you ring the bell.
Yep.
I have one of those, and you can hit the button and make it go ding, but it's also motion sensor,
Mm-hmm.
but it looks antique. So, the philosophy is, if we're leading a public investigation at a historic hotel or bed and breakfast or mansion, a spirit is from that time period is going to be more likely to interact with something they're familiar with,
Right.
rather than, hey, come up to this new gadget they just invented, last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this bell, and we were hosting a public investigation a few weeks ago. And my friend Sherry, who got Agatha for me, she was there, and I had this bell out. And I was saying something about, hey, if you want to spend, because we were at a bed and breakfast, you want to spend the night with us and hang out and join the party, you need to let the people know you're here. You got to go up and ring the bell. And Sherry was like, if that bell rings, and then no sooner, man, ding, the bell rang. So and then it started going on cue. So it's really cool, man. But you can't not have the enthusiasm, man, because we know what that piece of evidence, I think the TV shows desensitize people to the fact where, they want to see a ghost walk across the screen. And
Yep.
come on, man, that's not going to happen quite often. Really passionate. They know that just that slightest little something's not right, man. That's like the jackpot.
And Nancy said, and it can mean nothing, but the one time that it happens and it makes sense keeps you going forever.
It does. It really
It
does.
does.
And especially the thing is, like, I have so many examples. Like my first book, when I had my first encounter at age 11, a few weeks later, a friend of mine was at the same place with me, and he saw the same thing. I noticed that his attention was off our conversation. So when I looked in the direction that he was looking, I seen that spirit again.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it happened to my cousin as well, that was there with us one night. And, like, for those that haven't seen my episode of Haunted Hospitals, it was entitled The Ghost on the Road. And I saw this apparition of a female. Well, about a month or two later, someone that is a hospital employee, the hospital was kind of like adjacent to the road I was on, they saw the same woman. Now, I haven't spoke to this guy in probably 2 years, and he called me out of the blue because he knew what I did. And he explained his story, and he saw the same girl. And then I guess about a month after that, I was taking a patient to the hospital. And when I walked in, a lady stopped me that I had been to her house before on a medical emergency call. She saw the same exact thing that the both of us saw. Now, the two people that witnessed what I did, it was at a different location. They witnessed her at the same location, but they didn't know each other.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? In those cases, I like when, you have different people coming up with the same exact thing, man. That just adds validity to let you know you're not crazy. You know what I mean?
Yep. Uh, Catholic demonologist Sarah said, I'm also a nurse and used to work at the Sussex Hospital in New Jersey. Experienced some paranormal activity there after midnight.
Wow. I've never been to that hospital, but I've actually heard of it. I don't know how or why I've heard of it, but I've heard of that hospital.
Yeah, I've heard of it as well, being from the East Coast. I wasn't
Yeah.
too far from New Jersey, so
Yeah. That's I vacation every summer in New Jersey since I was like 4 years old, man. I actually absolutely love Jersey, man.
I used to
Jersey.
be a DJ back in the day, so I used to DJ all over the place.
Oh wow, wow. But Jersey sometimes gets a bad rap, man. But I love it. I absolutely love it in Jersey.
Nancy says, "Yep, in my house was the two pieces of paper next to each other, and one whips up in the air, and the other sits there not moving, and I'm yelling, 'I saw that! Ha! Yes, booyah, bitches! Validation!'"
Hey, that is one thing, man. When you're in this field, you got to have all of your five senses on alert at all times because when you do eventually experience something, it's quick. You know what I mean? And you got to be ready. You got to be ready to process it.
Well, that's like one evidence I got from an old hotel we were doing, and my 2 members stayed in the back part of the library, so I walked up to the other part by myself, and I hear this metallic clank.
Mm,
And you'll hear me I was live on TikTok
mm.
at the time, and you hear me react to it, I go, "What the hell?" And then I'm looking for it, and my one member heard it, and she was like, "Was that you?" I was like, "No." I'm like, "Something didn't want me coming back here." So I walked over to this metal toolbox, lifted the lid, and recreated the sound.
Wow. Now I got to tell you, and this is since I bought my house many years ago, so I don't want anyone to think it's because the dolls are here, but we have activity in our house, and it's nothing menacing. It's nothing on an everyday basis.
Right,
It's just the slightest things, and it's so sporadic, but it's so intriguing because, like, my wife will go to bed at night, and I'm up all night, and it's kind of like I'm always waiting. Like, what am I going to hear? What am I going to see? You know what I mean?
right,
I don't want to say fun, but it's exciting. You know what I mean? Because like I think in the past week I've experienced two or three things, very minor, but then it'll stop for 3 or 4 months, and then one or two things will happen again. And the funny thing is, since Dave Seiler and I became best friends and started Paranormal Inc., it seems that if something happens a few times in a week at my house, something happens at his in that same time frame. It's
right,
almost like it bouncing back and forth. You know what I mean? Not, I don't mean the same incidents occurs, but something will happen there and something will happen here.
right. Well, that's even like my dad. My dad's part of my team. He watches our cameras on investigations, and
Mhm.
he had an experience in that same hotel. He there was an old bell for service there. He rang it, sat down, went to sit down in the chair, and this big old white light just come around him.
Oh wow.
We all saw it, and we were like, "What is going on?" And then when we first did the hotel, and he was watching our cameras, we went to take a break. I walked in that room, and you could see your breath. He was
Yeah.
freezing. We were all in
Mhm.
t-shirts because it was warm. We
Mhm.
had to go out and get him a heat lamp and put blankets on him.
Wow.
And I told the thing to get away from him, and then it finally left.
Yeah.
And then my dad and I spent the night in that hotel. It has no running water or electricity, so we were running a generator. And the rest of my team went to a hotel for the night. We're like, we're gonna sleep in here. We weren't gonna spend the money on a hotel. And about 3 in the morning, the generator kicks off, and I'm starting to fall asleep on the couch. My dad says, "Hey, wake up." I'm like, "What?" He says, "Look in the doorway, and here's this big 6'5" black shadow figure standing in the door looking at us.
Wow. We man, my partner Dave experienced something very similar. We were at the Haldeman Mansion in Bainbridge, PA. We were getting ready to do a seminar there and then an investigation. We had a large group coming, and we had the keys to the mansion. And we get there and open up, and we're just always do a walkthrough. And we were on the second floor, and we heard two loud bangs below us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought someone came in the back door and like slammed the door shut. That's how loud it was. Um, Dave turned around, and I tell you, man, I thought he was having like a medical emergency. Like his body locked up, and he was trying to talk, but nothing was coming out. And I'm
Right.
like, man, I hope I don't have to give this 6'7", 300-pound man CPR, you know? And he starts pointing at the door frame. Well, I had a FLIR camera in my hand, and I aimed it at the door frame, and I watched it materialize, man. It was like almost 7 foot tall. And it was just like you described. I could see the head forming and the shoulders, real wide shoulders. And you could see the head and the shoulders, but it was a black shadow.
Yep.
And Dave claimed that when he heard the noise and he turned around, that it like stepped to him. That's what made him like, freeze.
Right.
But when you told that story about your dad, man, that just sparked that in my brain because the you just described the exact same shadow figure, man. It's crazy.
We have two questions.
Sure.
Sarah said, "Are you spiritual, sensitive, empath, Ernie and Russell? I get affected by people's emotions, etc. I can also see ghosts, etc. It started during childhood."
I I have no gifts whatsoever. I mean, I've had quite a few mediums tell me that I do have gifts, that I just, being stubborn, I refuse to whatever you're supposed to do.
Right.
Um, but I don't. Nah, man. I don't feel anything. I don't sense anything other than your normal. You go in somewhere and you're like, ugh, something feels off. You know what I
Yep.
mean? But I have no any evidence or any contact or whatever. I have to work hard for because I don't have no gifts like that. What's as far as the medium or empath or anything. Mm-mm.
Right. Or like me, I'm the opposite. I do have them. I had a near death experience when I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the gifts. I can see them. I'm also empathic,
Wow.
feel emotions. And
Right.
I actually told a client we were at this farmhouse and then we were setting up DVR cameras outside. Got done and I was looking in the upper window and I said, "There's a woman standing there looking at us. She's not saying nothing, just kind of wondering what we're doing."
Mm-hmm.
Had the picture on his phone and she showed up in his picture.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then Nancy said, "We do too. Grandkids have heard it. If you're downstairs, it sounds like moving furniture." Was working today and it dawned on me I was hearing it and I stood up and it stopped. I missed it being so tuned in to my work, dang it. And then,
Hey, like I said a minute ago, man, if something happens, it's quick.
yep. And then Sarah's other question, what's your opinion on this? If someone can see black shadows in their peripheral vision, some say it could be a guardian angel, some say it could be the development of a clairvoyancy ability and the start of spiritual awakening.
I I can't really give a confident answer because with having no special gifts, I don't know what may occur to trigger someone's gifts to get them to acknowledge it.
Right.
Okay. Now, you know, could it be a loved one? Absolutely, man. I mean, chances are my thing, if it's something that you may encounter in your home or in a friend or family's home, it could be a loved one. It could simply be someone that likes still taking up space in that residence. I would never rule that out, but I can't give a confident answer on what may trigger or spark or get you to recognize your gifts, because that's just a little bit out of my realm, since I don't have those abilities myself.
Right. And that's like I tell people too when they buy a house, and if somebody wants to live there and died there, to them you're trespassing.
Yeah,
Like you're breaking into their space.
yeah. That's like I always say, you know, not I mean, sometimes you provoke in a respectful or caring sense.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't like your basic provoking, being rude, threatening, daring. Because, for example, if I'm not on the road, I'm at home. I love being home. And, hopefully when it's time for my soul to leave my physical body, it happens when I'm home. And, you know, if somewhere along the line someone investigates my house and I'm still here because this is my happy place, what right does someone, a stranger, have to come into my home that I loved and put so much into, to challenge me and threaten me and dare me? You know what I mean? And then when that person that's doing the provoking gets some sort of negative or angered response, then all of a sudden, oh, it's something evil here. It's something demonic. No, it's not. You just went into someone's home and
Yep.
threatened them and disrespected them. That's why, to me, say you're investigating, I don't know, say a prison, and you're in just the worst person that ever existed in their cell. You still have to go in there and investigate with respect, even though they
Yep.
did the deeds they did, because when that person took form, in their physical body as a human, they were
Mm.
born innocent. They were born innocent,
Yep.
and for whatever reason, their path led them down that dark path. But, I feel that when people do pass away, if you hear a voice in the background, it's nothing. It's my clock. It says a verse every hour. Um, but when people are born, or when people pass away, I feel that they go back to that innocence that they were born with. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So as hard as it is at times, my thing is, and this is just my personal preference, you always have to be just respectful and treat people as they're a good human being.
Exactly. It's like the term Jason Hawes always used from Tap. They were
Right.
human. They were people once too.
Yeah, yeah. Just that they're a person without a body, and I mean, it's hard to always remember that, because sometimes you get startled or whatever. But, I look at it, from the spiritual or religious side. I whatever we encounter, to me, it's someone's soul, and that's always what's on the top of my mind.
Nancy said, "My dad died in our childhood home. Part of me feels like I should tell him, but then nah." And then she said, "Oh, I'd be so like boo."
I think we need to investigate with Nancy. She sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, she does. Well, we're at our 9 o'clock hour. I got another show coming on after me, so we're gonna get ready to wrap up. If people want to get a hold of you to book you for Paracons, and how can they get a hold
um,
of you guys?
very, very simple. You can go to our website, paranormalinc.net, and the ink in Paranormal Inc. is INC. Um, all mine and Dave's information is there. Or if you're on Facebook, you can just find me, Ernie Atwell. Also, and you know this, Russ, on Facebook, I have a closed page, Paranormal Inc.
Yep.
And send me a request. Everybody, send me a request on Paranormal Inc. And there's a reason I keep it closed. Okay. We have to accept you in, and of course we will. But, there's no judgment there. There's no controversy, drama. We don't allow it, you know. But if you are a member of the Paranormal Inc. page, feel free to post whatever. Whether you sell stuff, promote stuff, if you're going to be on TV, you're getting ready to release something like events, that's what it's there for. Because believe it or not, you know, all the friends I have all around the world and how I met Russ, and it was through that. You know what I mean? So it's a way of just everyone just uniting. Dave and I like to say one love, and that's what it is. And all the years that I've had the Paranormal Inc. page, we had one guy come on with a smart comment being disrespectful. And I mean, he was instantly gone. So we don't tolerate it. Post your evidence, ask, if you have a question, what do you think this is? That's what it's there for, man. It's just everybody that loves this and loves everything we do, come on there and post away.
All right. Well, we're going to end the show here. I thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I thank you, Ernie, for being my guest tonight.
It was my pleasure, man. I was so honored to finally have the opportunity to come on.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you again next week.